People commemorate the anniversary of the September 11, 2001 attacks in different ways. Some have a loved one that perished, and either attend one of the memorials or spend time with family and friends privately. Some post a picture or offer a word of condolences or protest on social media. Some feel that enough time has passed, and that it's no longer necessary to commemorate it at all. In my case, I watch a movie. A movie I typically see only once a year. For a while, that movie was World Trade Center, directed by Oliver Stone and starring Nicolas Cage as Port Authority police officer John McLaughlin. Officer McLaughlin was trapped in the rubble of the collapsed house tower, and among the few people that were actually rescued from the collapse. Oliver Stone and his crew recreated the look of the Twin Towers inside and out with such attention to detail, not only as they stood, but also as they fell. The movie was respectful of telling the story the way the survivors and their families, and the families of fallen officers, have told it. It's uneven at times, and some of the dialogue can be questionable, but overall I found it to be a decently made movie about a relatively recent and definitely controversial subject. It could have been a lot worse. In 2015, I found another movie, The Walk, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Philippe Petit, the wire walker who successfully danced on a tightrope between the roofs of the towers in August of 1974. There are some critics who viewed The Walk as unnecessary, because there is an Academy Award-winning documentary from 2008 called Man on Wire. The documentary actually featured Petit and others who were involved with the stunt talking about how the walk between the towers came to be, and the effects it had on everyone involved, as well as on the World Trade Center itself. Man on Wire is still my all-time favorite documentary, not just because it was a fine film, but also because it was the first movie I saw after 9/11 that focused on the World Trade Center and had nothing to do with its destruction. Much like in Oliver Stone's World Trade Center, the towers themselves were characters in both The Walk and on Man on Wire. In Stone's movie, they were office buildings that became, through no fault of their own, the visible villain of the story. The remains of the towers were the environment from which the main characters needed to escape with their lives. When Officer Will Jimeno, played by Michael Pena, emerged from the rubble as the first responders carried him out, the first thing he asked was,
"Hey, where'd the buildings go?"
"They're gone, kid. They're gone."
In both The Walk and Man on Wire, the Twin Towers were a beacon to a young Philippe Petit in France, years before the towers were even built. His life's work from that moment on was to do the ultimate wire walk at the World Trade Center. As his proficiency on the wire grew, so did the towers. When he finishes his historical act of trespassing, he gives a gesture of thanks to the towers for supporting him, literally and figuratively. The ephemeral storytelling in The Walk unfolds more like a fairy tale than a documentary, and it does go over the same events as Man on Wire, that is true. However, there is one thing that could not be shown on Man on Wire: filmed footage of the wire walk. There are static pictures, frozen in time. There are accounts of people from the roofs, on the ground, and first-hand recollections from Petit himself, but there is no filmed footage of the stunt from the towers themselves, because any footage that was captured by Petit's team was damaged and lost forever. Zemeckis and his crew took great lengths in The Walk to recreate 1970s New York City, including the stunt itself. The entire third act of the movie is a technical masterpiece, as The Walk is not only recreated in CG, but also in 3D, giving the viewer a sense of height and scale that not even footage from the event itself could provide. In a sense, when it comes down to it, The Walk did the one thing that the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey could not, or for some reason would not, do. The Walk rebuilt the World Trade Center. Sure, it's all Hollywood magic, but we see the towers standing tall and proud from almost the beginning to the very end. The last shot of the movie is a lingering shot of the towers against a vivid sunrise. The reflection of the sun off its metal frame is the last thing we see before the end credits. While the movie gently yet directly alludes to the fact that the towers won't be there forever, it is not completely overt, and the context of the times we live in leads us to draw the conclusion for ourselves. However, the movie is always uplifting, always looking upwards to the heights that Petit wants to reach with his wire and his dreams. This is why I choose The Walk as a movie to see every 9/11. While Oliver Stone's World Trade Center is a story that dealt with the tower's death, The Walk, on the other hand, showed the story of when the Twin Towers became alive. Philippe Petit's Wire Walk humanized the towers to the people of New York City, and for the first time for a lot of them. In the film, they're tangible. They're three-dimensional in a way that I sadly never got to experience in person. They're where they belong, holding aloft a dancer a quarter of a mile in the sky. It's good to see them again. That is why the walk is necessary. Until next time.